Hi there, folks. I'm Keegan Van Hook, and welcome to Us As We Are. If you've been paying attention, you know that COVID cases are on the rise here in Oregon, and really everywhere across the country. And in response to that, our governor, Kate Brown, has initiated a freeze of the reopening plan that we've been following for the past month or so. We're 8 months into the COVID crisis now, and as time has gone on, the entire issue has only become more controversial. So in this episode, we're going out into the streets to ask people how they feel and what they think 8 months into the crisis and facing a new lockdown. All right, what's your name, man?
My name's Alig.
And what do you do?
Right now, I'm a senior in high school. I work at the Village Baker, and I pretty much just skate every day I can.
Sweet. All right, well, what do you think of the new lockdown measures that are in place? We kind of froze the reopening that we were steadily doing here in Oregon, and we're just getting people's opinions on that.
The new lockdown measures, I definitely think should have been in place sooner. I definitely think we should have taken more action in the beginning, so we didn't have to do this now. I think this is kind of like a last resort. Mm-hmm. Maybe not like a last resort, but like we need to do this or it's going to get worse. And I think this should have been done in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So you take COVID pretty seriously?
Yeah.
So why do you, early on, what kinds of measures would you have liked to have seen?
I think early on, pretty much this, all the new rules about this lockdown should have been in place earlier. Mm-hmm. And I think this, I think Halloween was definitely a big contributor to the numbers going back up. And I think they're implementing the new lockdown before Thanksgiving. So it just helps out a little bit. But the one thing I don't understand is that religious gatherings can have 75 people. But you're not allowed to have 6 or more people.
It's 20 for religious gatherings. It's 25 indoors, 50 outdoors.
Yeah,
I don't really understand. Limit of 6 in it for a group gathering.
Because it's 25 people indoors, all from different families. But then you can't have 6 or more people inside your own house from your family, which I don't really understand.
So you feel like it's maybe a little inconsistent?
Yeah.
How would you like to see that made more consistent?
I think we need to really limit out outdoor public gatherings to the numbers where because if there's only 6 people from your immediate family allowed in your house, then there should only be 10 people in gatherings and stuff.
So what about you? How has this impacted your life personally? You're a senior in high school, so I assume you're not going to physical classes as much. How has this impacted you?
Honestly, COVID, I definitely think it's had a negative impact on everybody, but my senior year has just really been ruined. And, I was mad at first. I was really bummed, but then I realized that there's nothing I can really do, so I'd just make the best of it and try to skate every day with my friends and hang out. I mean, I definitely think it's had a negative impact, but it's also a mindset. If you can, work around it and work with it, then, you can have a positive day.
Do you see this going away soon, and if so, how?
No. I don't think this is going to go away soon because I think America is just really lagging on this whole thing. We really caught it at its worst, and we're trying to fix it at its worst, and that's not really happening. And I think a lot of other countries, had some really good ideas and put those in place first, and look at them, they're thriving and going back to normal life. So I don't know. I don't see it going away anytime soon.
So even in the long term, what do you think we should do to try and make it go away? And what does that look like?
Oh. As an individual, I don't know. I guess you could just participate in the social distancing and all the rules that they put in place and do your part as an individual to, try to solve the greater issue. But I don't know. It's really up to the scientists and the people working on the vaccine at this point.
Okay, thank you so much for talking to us. Any last thing you want to say? Just put out to the world. It could be a random thing.
Shout out to my mom. I love you, Mom. And I don't know. That's kind of it. I love my mom.
Thanks for talking to us, man.
Yeah. Have a good one.
You too. All right, first, what's your name?
Joseph.
And what do you do?
Grow cannabis.
Grow cannabis. So what do you think about this new lockdown that's taking place, affecting businesses here in Oregon?
I think it's a necessary measure at the time being. I think it's kind of odd. We're just visiting Ashland and everyone's wearing masks on the street. I think that's kind of overkill since there's not much evidence in it being transmitted outdoors, especially just in passing. But yeah, I think some things need to happen. I think it's odd how they're doing it. Kind of some businesses open, some are closed. Like retail's open, gyms are closed. I don't quite understand it, but it's just the times, I guess. It's what we have to do. I'm not sure. Really, I don't know. I live in a rural area, so it's not really an issue, it seems. But places more densely populated, I could understand why it might be a necessary precaution.
What would a precaution be that would make more sense to you?
I think about all we can do is wear masks inside and socially distance, but I don't think we can halt life. Personally, I think we should just let it run its course. And if it were, I don't know, I'd maybe say no masks, and if you're predisposed to health conditions, stay inside, and if you're elderly, take more precaution. But the hospitalization rate for young people is pretty low, so I'd say for a college town, it's like, I wouldn't say shut the school down, say let it run its course through the population. But I'm not a virologist, so I'm not really one to talk too much on the subject, I guess.
So what about you? Like, how has this whole pandemic, as well as these lockdowns, how have they impacted you, a cannabis grower living in a rural area, personally? How has that impacted you personally?
Not much. Yeah, I live on acreage in a small town, and a small town that hasn't taken it serious the whole time, because we have had no cases where I live. And I think what affects me most is I work late. I work a lot. I'm a farmer, so I'm up early, finish when the sun goes down, and I don't have everything closes at 10, so I don't have much option to get out. And I'm already living isolated, so I'd say the lack of socializing has been an impact on me and my partner. We can't. By the time we're done working, there's a half an hour to go to a bar, and even the bars are usually closed. So that's been a thing, but not a huge impact other than I'm wary of going and visiting my family for the holidays, and that's upsetting.
Sure.
But
do you think you will or won't?
They live in Ohio and Virginia, so I think if I do, we might just drive there and just remain quarantined. We'll be driving there. We'll just stop for gas and, do the best that we can. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I'd say that's about all that it's affected me. I mean, it's been hard this time of year because we need to get people to come in and help us process, and we've taken precaution, making sure people are healthy before they come to the farm, because that would be the worst thing for everyone on the farm. To get sick while we're trying to process our harvest would not be beneficial to us, but it has not been an issue.
Totally. How personally afraid are you of catching COVID?
Not at all. I'd like to catch COVID.
You would like to catch COVID?
Yeah.
Just sort of like get it done with almost?
Get it over with. I'm not exactly excited to take a vaccine that's only been developed for the last 6 months. That's like, I don't like taking vaccines anyway, necessarily. And to take one that's been so expedited seems almost as risky as getting COVID, or potentially more risky. I'm not sure. But I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. I'm not going to take the vaccine. I'll just, whatever. My elderly parents can take the vaccine if they choose to, and that'll make it better so that I could go be around them. But I don't see the necessity of me taking a vaccine.
So you wouldn't want to see any kind of like mandate to take the vaccine?
I think that would cause issues.
Probably.
Yeah, I would not like to see that. Especially, it just wouldn't work. I mean, can't tell people that they have to take something before they can travel. I mean, that's a slippery slope. So I'm not really pro pushing a vaccine, mandatory vaccine. Sounds a little much. Sure. Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to say on this subject?
I just hope I hope the vaccine's good, and I hope it works for the people that are in more danger than ourselves. I mean, I don't know if you have health conditions, but I don't, and I'd be more than willing to just either get it and get it over with and be sick for a couple weeks, or potentially all the other people around me get the vaccine and it be a safer environment for us all to enjoy each other, especially upcoming season. There's not going to be as much outdoor activity and it's going to be more inside stuff, so it's going to be interesting. Everyone's just cooped up all winter. Doesn't sound fun for anybody, but yeah.
Your name one more time?
Joseph.
Joseph, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, of course. Cheers.
Appreciate you
guys. Have a good one.
You too.
There ought to be fines for not masks.
Yeah, like these people.
Like, well, Kate Brown mentioned there could be such measures taken. What do you think of that?
I think that's a very smart idea. I'm a retired medical social worker, and what people are avoiding doing is killing their neighbor. You know, if you avoid wearing a mask and you think that your business is more important being open than human life, then you're hurting your community. The most significant thing to me is that we live in a county where two of the commissioners are such cowards that they don't speak up for basic public health. Sorry, I'm out of breath.
That's okay.
Walking.
What situation with the commissioners are you referencing?
The two commissioners who are refusing to make a public declaration about the importance of wearing masks. That's so basic.
Which commissioners are those?
The county
The
commissioners.
county commissioners?
Oh yeah, the county, but which of them are, which individual
Oh.
commissioners?
I don't have a clue. There are just two of them. Two of the
I
three.
can't remember the names right off. A woman and a man. I think it's been in all the papers. I'm sorry, I don't remember their names. I've probably ignored their names because I honestly think they're idiots. So we have an opinion. We gave it.
There you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. All right, to start, why don't you just introduce yourself for us?
My name is Kaye Starr, and I live in Ashland.
And what do you think? We're shutting down again here in Oregon. How do you feel about that?
The same way I did from the start. If somebody's sick, they can stay home. If they feel threatened of being sick, they can wear a mask or stay home. I've had pneumonia a few times in my life. I stayed home. I protected myself. I've always taught my kids to, wash their hands before they eat, get out in the sun and fresh air to stay well and healthy. And so I think logic and common sense is where it's at. And I don't buy all the media hype. The Associated Press owns most of it, not you guys, so that's why I'm talking to you.
So what do you think the consequences of shutting down like this might be?
Well, one of them is my recession burger's almost $10 now.
Oh, man.
So it's up from the recession price that it used to be. So that's one effect. And of course, nobody's walking into the restaurant.
So how do you think we get out of this bind? Like, obviously there's a lot of concern over the pandemic, and there's also a lot of concern over these economic and, all the different problems that result from doing these sorts of shutdowns. What do you think a different solution for the whole problem might be?
For people to just address it directly to the top level and just say, we're not buying this.
Not buying it as in, what do you mean by that?
Propaganda package.
So do you believe that COVID is not as bad as people make it out to be?
I think COVID is bad. I highly suspect it's a man-made disease, but it's bad. I don't want anybody to get it. So if you feel threatened, take precautions, whatever you feel you need. But telling people to stay indoors is not the answer to good health. Get all the sunshine, fresh air, exercise, do your best to eat healthy. Yeah, and we've dealt with all kinds of diseases before. Just be logical and help each other out.
So assuming it is, as you said, propaganda or it's being overhyped, why do you think that's the case?
Why? Because none of this makes sense. Like, for instance, the staying indoors. Why would you tell people to stay indoors to be healthy? I mean, why would you close public trails? we've never bought that before. Before we always believed, you know, sunshine heals, fresh air, exercise, you know, keep your body strong and healthy. You have better resistance. When you do get something, you recover better. And then also, we're all likely to die at some point. And if that's the way our soul chooses to leave the body, then that's its choice. Yeah, none of this makes sense to me.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. Is there anything else you want to throw out to the world?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Getting public opinion. And I think it's good for us to talk and communicate with each other.
Absolutely.
And, you know, wearing a mask is inhibiting to that. So, yeah, I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Before we go on, do you understand the person that runs the CDC, Rick Bright, is in prison for the COVID-19?
I don't know anything about that.
And that will tell you there is an issue with what's going on. CDC is being closed down. Both Dr. Anthony Fauci and Dr. Rick Bright are in prison since March 18th of this year and were convicted in late April for the COVID scare. The Department of Justice is working on this case and wants to reopen the nation. So I do not know when they will do it, but I was informed in Medford over the summer of when they will start bringing this about. I just haven't seen it happen yet. But the director of the CDC, Rick Bright, has repeatedly made up false viruses and bacteria and germs since 1982. He has stolen $44 million for the government on alcoholism treatments through enzymes, which he has never done, and he bought properties in Florida and Georgia for his family with this $44 million. It was $3 million in 1982. This has gone bad. If COVID is what I understand, the Department of Justice is going to end this. They are going to end it, but I was under the impression it would have been in September, and it hasn't happened yet.
So,
I don't know why.
So hang on, with Dr. Fauci being in prison, I saw him on television.
They're letting him on. It's the Department of Justice doesn't want people to know this. We had a person wanting to run for Congress. I told him to call Ron Wyden's office, and this guy dropped his bid for Congress in March over this topic we're talking right now. He found out, and he left. His name was Mark. He came out of Oregon, University of Oregon, as a lawyer, and he's not running for Congress. He dropped it in March. So he was getting signatures for his candidacy into Congress, and after a short talk with Ron Wyden's staff, he left. And it was a strange discussion. It had to do with something called PPL, and COVID is tied to that. And what the directors of the CDC were hoping is that they can get themselves into Wuhan, China, to get technology into the United States that was deemed illegal. And that's why COVID was there. It was a plot, as the sheriff told me, that began in early 2019, and the media went for it. They found the media people to make it happen. The strange thing about a virus is they do not live in temperatures over 44 degrees. So viruses live in the dirt in temperatures between 36 and 44 degrees. Unless you get malaria, which is in the belly of a mosquito, that's rare to get. So basically, what I asked and how the conversation came up is that streptococcal has a 1 in 28,000 chance of survival in your body. If it does have survived that, it's a 1 in 14 chance for it to incubate into a parasite. I asked for the incubation time for COVID, and I not only didn't get an answer, nobody understood that till they studied it, and then it became that there was no virus.
You seem to know all kinds of information about this.
I had to learn this in the U.S. Army. I was inserted into the Ukraine in 1983 for Military Assistance Command to study typhoid, fever, diphtheria, and cholera. And we found so many places in the Ukraine where you cannot put any troops or anybody in is because of cholera. We found so many square miles, I think it came up to 84 square mile area of cholera in the Ukraine. This is northwest of Kiev, about 84 miles. We inserted ourselves for Ronald Reagan, And when we reported back to the Pentagon, we told them it's so unsafe to send military units into Ukraine to fight Russia, as we can't find anywhere to bivouac an army. So what I'm saying is I'm trained with viruses and germs. I have to do that to keep. I was an air cavalry regimental commander of the 2nd and 4th Air Cavalry Unit since 1977 to 1987. And what I had found was if you go into Russia, you're going into areas where you can basically lay out 30,000 men in a day.
Interesting.
Yeah, we found the viral areas of the world where you could run into viruses were far and few between. Viruses were not the problem. Our problem was cholera, typhoid, and diphtheria. And whatever this virus was that Dr. Fauci had described was more of a germ and not a virus, is because a virus is a pathogen. And pathogens turn into parasites in the liver if they're successfully incubated, which is rare. So in essence, we don't know what we have with COVID. We don't even know if it really is there. But the issue comes down, if the state is trying to block any efforts for reopening any of these businesses, I find that very illegal. In other words, we don't have anything to worry about. I don't know anyone who is sick with this disease.
Wow. All right, well, you answered basically every question I could possibly think of.
I have gone to hospitals to get information just while I'm curing my heart disease. What I had done under order of Congress in 1982 from Dr. Colonel Jason Geflochter of Bethesda, I was ordered to cure the infarction to prevent heart disease, and I finally did it. It worked. Now, I'm laying here ready to go back to work in the State Department next month, and I'm wondering what kind of conversation I'm going to have about COVID. The Army had told me on March 2nd that this viral information will be coming out, but there was no virus. I learned this on March 2nd. There's many people in town that I talked to about this before you heard of COVID on March 6th.
What's your name, sir?
Colonel Lawrence Brooks.
Colonel Lawrence Brooks?
Yeah.
When were you in the Army?
From 1977 through 1987 as a colonel. I joined the Army in 73.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking to us.
I'm glad you came by.
Anything else you want to throw out to the world?
I'm really upset that they're not reopening all the businesses and ending this farce.
All right.
Thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you for talking to us.
Good luck.
What's your name, sir?
Kirk.
And what do you have to say?
No, it's not what I have to say. It's what I have to ask.
Sure.
Yeah, well, you're the young generation, are you not?
You can
By the
call
way,
me that.
you'd be the fruit of my loins with that red hair. I don't know. What's your mom's name?
My father has very similar colored hair to you, and that's where I get it from, I'm sure. Thank you, Dad. Well, what did you have to ask?
This is my question. This is the question of the hour. With this. Shall I be ruled by a lesbian? Shall we hang all lesbians or just this one? Because they swear an oath, these servants of ours, to the Constitution, which governs their behavior. I don't have constitutional rights. All my rights are inalienable. And you don't hear from any of these people. The only two that matter, and the only one that is relevant to this question. Would you rather be governed by consent or ruled by decree?
Well, I think anyone...
Hold on, you're 22 years. You got a degree, don't you?
I actually do not. I studied a bit of journalism and didn't
diploma?
finish. No diploma. Well, high school diploma, yeah.
Right, so you went through the system. Right.
Did.
Okay, well, here in America, we have this thing called a Declaration of Independence. Can you tell me what a self-evident truth is?
Self-evident truth, I would assume.
Hold on.
Something.
Labor is the only currency.
The sky is blue. Tree leaves are generally green, and they turn to fall.
Purple, and it's just your perception. And I guess when a bumblebee looks up, it may not see blue.
Perhaps.
But I'm not a bumblebee.
Of course.
Right? Yeah, because I brought labor is the only currency. I brought a rod angle, and this is all made with word in hand. And you know how come? Because they said so. Because they had to remove a forest and a mountain to do this.
Oh man.
Right?
Be careful yelling in the plaza.
But my question is, would you rather be governed by consent or ruled by decree?
Well, obviously consent.
Well, how's that obvious?
Because you would want to have some say in what
so
happens.
Yes and no.
Well,
so yes and no are the basis of consent, are they not?
Yes.
Well, the only way you can honor yes and no is if you honor word. Does the government honor word?
Depends.
Brown takes an oath to freedom of association, the inalienable right to be governed by consent. She says, I'm not asking, I'm telling. She crossed the line.
So
How come she's not hanging? They used to tar and feather politicians. What happened to history?
So you,
that's right. They're erasing it with public opinion. But who's in charge of public opinion? Because here's how public opinion works. Ready? The property owners, PO, because I'm doing A squared, hire the police officers, PO. And in the name of public opinion, that's the machine around you. They give me a probation officer, but here's the joke. In the 56 millionths of a second it takes for nuclear detonation, the missile is programmed to the zip code, and that's the PO, the post officer. It's in the middle of it. And that's A squared. And so I'm ruled by decree. And yet, this is the only country, 6,000 years. There's a library, a college, and one here closer. You can go look up 6,000 years of history. Name one country in 6,000 years have governed by consent laid at its cornerstone inalienably. But you still haven't answered my first question. What is a self-evident truth? Because everything I said is self-evident so far.
perhaps, if you want...
No, not perhaps. We have a record.
Do you genuinely want my answer to the question,
Yes,
what
of
is the
course.
self-evident truth? What I would say, again, back to things like the sky is blue,
Except
gravity
that-
pulls us down, trees turn colors with the fall.
Pitiful. Gravity doesn't pull you down, bro.
It pulls you
Gravity
towards
makes
mass.
you strong. If it
can
pulls
do
you
that.
down, how come you're not down? You keep going up. Now this tree doesn't put out fruit without root. Does it?
I don't know.
Oh, come on, it's a tree. Only in America do we imprison trees in iron and concrete. How come it's not grass? You know, so it can live on Earth.
My God.
But you're covered in iron and concrete too. Behold. Do you not see? And by the way, go ask all the 80-year-olds. No, really, diligently for a month. Ask every 80-year-old everywhere you go. Is this what you voted for?
Well, we're going to ask. That's what we're doing today. We're
Well, hold
getting
on.
public opinion.
Governed by consent has nothing to do with a vote. It has everything to do with yes and no, my friend. That's word. And so the end of the Gentiles is at hand because they came up with the best writing that nobody understands. And it's this simple. If you don't honor word, you have no rights. And if I'm not governed by consent, I can't say no. I'm a slave.
All right, so sir, last thing. What is, if you had one sentence you wanted to put out to the world, what would that sentence be?
Fuck you guys.
Okay. All right, thank you.
There it is.
What's your name again, sir?
Not again.
Not again? Okay.
Not was, yes.
Would you, by any chance,
Kirk.
like to... Kirk? Good to meet you, Kirk.
As in, beam me up. And if you don't believe it's not Kirk, well, let me show you this. And although the Enterprise and I are somewhat in a time loop, I can get Klingon ale because I got a communicator.
Well, we really got to talk to the full gambit of opinion today. Sometimes it can feel a little bit scary to approach people when you know that they're going to have a radically different opinion than your own. But that's kind of why these sorts of conversations are valuable. And that's really what Us As We Are is all about. If you want to help support more programming like this, please consider becoming a supporter of our Patreon at patreon.com/SailorBoyMedia. And before I go, I also do want to mention that in addition to doing this show for YouTube, we're also airing abridged versions of many of these interviews on Southern Oregon PBS. If you want to know more about that, go to sopbs.org/usasweare. That's going to do it for this episode, folks. I've been Keegan Van Hook. This is Us As We Are, and we'll see you in the next one. You think so?